Hi, in this video of Coach G, we are going to be starting with the first unit in your statistics syllabus, which is, surprisingly enough, called the Introduction and Overview. The main idea of this unit is to make you familiar with what it is that statistics entails, what it is that the field can do, and mostly motivate the idea of why statistics is important. Apart from the fact that it's a compulsory subject in your course, you also should be able to intuitively understand that statistics, or rather without statistics, there is very little that we can infer about the world that we live in. So without further ado, I'm going to kind of try to list out the main topics that I want to cover in this video, and go from there. So the first thing that I would like to answer is, why study statistics, first of all? Okay. Surprisingly enough, this question has a pretty long answer. So the second thing that we'd like to cover is the distinction between univariate and multivariate data sets. Third is descriptive versus inferential statistics. This is again a very important distinction that isn't as emphasized as it should be in the very beginning. For this video, we are just going to be covering these three major topics. So let's get started. Now, to understand why statistics is important, let's take a very small example. Let's say that I want to understand, or I want to know the health, or rather, let's go even smaller, the blood pressure specifically of people in a district in South India, let's say, and the district that I pick randomly should be, let's say, Idukki. Idukki is a small district in I think Kerala, if I'm not wrong, and it's one of their agriculturally rich districts. So yeah. Now, the current population of Idukki as of 2011, which is this last census data that is available, is 11.1 lakh people. Okay. I would just like you to appreciate that there is an 11.1 lakh people within the state district of Idukki, and for these people, we would like to know the blood pressure. Okay. Now, it's important to understand that right now I'm just saying that I want to know the blood pressure. If you could give me all 11.1 lakh data points, and which would basically mean that for each person I would have their name, or some idea to associate it, and I would have their blood pressure reading, then it should be fine, right? Like I would have, or I would know the blood pressure of each and every person of Idukki. However, what if you can't tell me, let's say, the blood pressure of every person? Some people might not allow you to take their blood pressure reading. Some people may not be available when you go and take their blood pressure. It could be multiple reasons, but if you are not able to obtain this blood pressure reading for all people, then can you still give me the number for the blood pressure on average, or the blood pressure of people in the South Indian district of Idukki? Now, there are two ways of looking at this. Okay, number one is, and I think this is the most important thing to kind of appreciate here, is that you are dealing, or you are in a situation which is uncertain. There is inherent uncertainty when you're dealing with 11.1 lakh people, or even for that matter 11 people, right? So the point that I'm trying to make is that when you're talking about something as common as blood pressure, right? If all the people in the district of Idukki were exactly the same in terms of their health, in terms of their weight, in terms of their whatever health status, basically everything, age, etc., all of those things that would possibly impact blood pressure, if they were the exact same in all of those things, or forget even that, forget that forget measures of blood pressure. Let's just say that, if I could say without any uncertainty that all the people of Idiki have the same blood pressure, then taking the reading of one person in Idiki should have been enough to tell me what the blood pressure of a person in Idiki is going to be. So if I say, this person A belongs to Idiki, and I ask you, okay, what is the blood pressure of this person A? Even if you had measured the blood pressure for person C, let's say, but you knew that everybody is exactly the same, then you could very easily tell me that whatever the reading of person C was be equal to the reading of person A, because everything is absolutely the same, right? So there is no uncertainty in this case that I just described. However, as you would understand, and is as kind of ridiculously, I should say obvious, there is a certain level of uncertainty that we deal with. There is a huge level of uncertainty that we deal with, and forget, even if you take age out of the question, right? If you just talk about adults for now, even within adults, all adults, even adults within the same household cannot be considered the same. If you take the blood pressure of all the people within your own house, the blood pressure readings are not going to be the same, right? So naturally, the blood pressure readings of people in an entire district cannot be the same. Forget blood pressure. Chalo, you might say, अरे ये तो मतलब वैसे भी बहुत differ करता है. What about something like which is kind of constant across people? But even then you say kind of constant, right? You cannot absolutely claim with certainty that it is going to be the same for every person no matter what, right? Because you can't do that is why we say that we live in a world with uncertainty. Because we live in a world with uncertainty is why we need statistics to kind of summarize data for us. So it's like saying this, right? When I ask you what is the blood pressure of a person in Idiki, since there is uncertainty, you can't give me blood pressure of person A or person B or person C or person D as the blood pressure for Idiki, right? So here's what I mean, right? I'm saying that because there is uncertainty, person A, or rather I should say A/B/C, whatever, no one person can be representative of the entire district, right? This implies that you need some way to summarize the data on blood pressure, let's say, for all the people in Idiki. And right now I'm assuming that you are able to somehow sample all the people in Idiki, because you need this way to summarize this data. This is where statistics comes in, right? This is exactly what statistics is supposed to do. It's supposed to help you summarize data. It's as simple and as complicated as that. What does statistics do? It helps you summarize data. Now, why you are summarizing the data, what it is that you want to get to, is that even a question that can be answered? All of those questions we come to later. But if you just want to understand at the base of it why we study statistics, it is because we want to be able to summarize data, right? Okay. Now, the next thing to kind of understand is, fine, we are summarizing data. That's cool and that's great. So, the next thing that, I'd like to point out is that given that, we are dealing with something like 11.1 lakh people, right? You have to understand that there is a significant cost of going to each person and, collecting their data. चलो कॉस्ट को एक सेकंड के लिए साइड भी रख दो, मान लो हमारे पास बहुत पैसा है, ठीक है, बट क्या आप हर पॉपुलेशन के लिए ऐसा कर सकते हैं? फॉर 1 million people, समथिंग लाइक इंडिया, द पॉपुलेशन ऑफ इंडिया, और मे बी समथिंग ग्रेटर देन दैट, डोंट कोट मी ऑन दिस नंबर एनीवेयर, अगर इससे भी ज़्यादा लोग हो गए, 12 लाख, 15 लाख, 50 लाख, 1 करोड़, the point is that you can't keep, You can, but generally you don't have the resources to go to every person and collect their data. If you could, you would, but you can't, so you won't. Which means that if you can't go to each person and collect their data, and there is uncertainty, then you have to be in a position where you can intuit or whatever, deduct or not deduct, deduce one person's data, or deduce a lot of people's data from a smaller portion of the population, right? So this is kind of important to understand. Now there are two concepts, or maybe three concepts here, right? Number one is, when I tell you that the population of Idukki is 11.1 lakhs, and I say I need to know the blood pressure of an adult, right? So even though the population of Idukki itself might be 11.1 lakh, the population of interest, right? The population of interest, which is to say what is the population that I am interested in for my problem, is not 11.1 lakhs, okay? Because 11.1 lakhs is the total population. इसमें बच्चे भी होंगे, बड़े लोग भी होंगे. I am saying I am interested in the blood pressure of an adult of Idukki, which means that my number or my population of interest would be something like, let's say, 9 lakhs, which may be the number of adults in Idukki, okay? So the most important thing to understand here is that your population of interest, right? Population of interest depends upon your question. So your population of interest is always unique to the problem that you are addressing. It's got nothing to do with what the actual population or what you understand of from the term population actually. For example, if I'm dealing with I don't know, something like a class of 20 people, then my population of interest for that particular problem is just 20 people, right? And so on and so forth. The next thing to understand is that it is impossible in most cases, it is generally impossible, hence I will say generally impossible to study each person in the population of interest individually. I'm sorry about my shoddy handwriting, but the point that I'm trying to make is that number one, population of interest, right? Number two, impossibility to take every person into account. Every person, every unit, every every unit of the population of interest cannot be taken into account due to constraints that you have. The cost constraints could be in terms of cost, it could be in terms of time, it could be anything. But the point is कि ऐसा हमेशा पॉसिबल नहीं होता है. रादर ऐसा जनरली ऐसा ही होता है कि आपके पास इतना ना तो टाइम होता है ना पैसा होता है कि आप किसी भी पॉपुलेशन ऑफ इंटरेस्ट के सारे लोगों को पढ़ सकें या सारे लोगों के बारे में डेटा इकट्ठा कर सकें. और द थर्ड थिंग हियर इज़ अनसर्टिनिटी, राइट? अनसर्टिनिटी मतलब हमें नहीं पता है कि एग्जैक्टली क्या हो रहा है. तो अनसर्टिनिटी जब रहती है तो उसका मतलब है कि एक इंसान के डेटा से आपको ये नहीं पता चल सकता कि सबके डेटा में क्या हो रहा है. इसका क्या मतलब है? You would like to study the maximum number of people possible from any given population so that you can infer things about the population. Let me say that again. I am saying that given that you have a constraint on your cost and your time and that you're dealing with uncertainty, you need to be, making a call such that you maximize the number of people you study in a way that you can minimize the uncertainty associated with the figures that you present about the population. Let me say that again. एक population है, मुझे इसके लोगों को पढ़ना है, मेरे को इसके लोगों का लेट्स से बीपी जानना है, ठीक है? इसमें जितने लोग हैं मैं सबके पास एक एक करके नहीं जा सकती हूँ। इसका मतलब क्या है कि मेरे को कुछ लोगों के पास ही जा सकती हूँ मैं। तो मैं इन लोगों को, इन कुछ लोगों को इस तरह से इस तरह से इन लोगों के पास जाऊँगी या इस तरह से इन लोगों को चुनूँगी ताकि मेरा जो भी मैं फिगर लेके आऊँ, लेट्स से मैं कहती हूँ 120 है बीपी का फिगर, एवरेज बीपी का फिगर. Average is just we'll get into what an average is if you're not familiar with the concept, but for now I'm saying कि मैं कहती हूँ कि 120 है ब्लड प्रेशर. ठीक है, किसी भी आप बंदे को उठाएंगे इडुकी से तो मैं कह रही हूँ उसका ब्लड प्रेशर 120 के आसपास होना चाहिए. अब मैं चाहूँगी कि इस 120 में सबसे मिनिमम एरर हो, राइट? मिनिमम एरर मैं चाहती हूँ इसमें हो. और एरर आ कहाँ से रहा है? इस अनसर्टेनिटी की वजह से, क्योंकि सब लोग सेम नहीं है. ओके, सो व्हाट विल आई डू? आई विल टेक अ सबसेट, राइट? टेक अ सबसेट ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन ऑफ इंटरेस्ट टू अंडरस्टैंड and hence infer. Okay, let's understand each of these words carefully. When I say subset, what do we mean? ये population है, ये उसका एक subset है. किसी भी set का subset क्या होता है? It's the smaller, it's a portion of the set, but it's not the entire set itself, right? So I mean, subset is a mathematical concept. If it's something you're not familiar with, for now, intuitively, it just means कि आपके पास एक बड़ा सा डब्बा है और उसके अंदर एक छोटा डब्बा है. आपने वो छोटा डब्बा उठा लिया और बड़े वाले डब्बे को as it is रहने दिया. So a subset is just a smaller portion of the total set, right? Now, what I'm saying is that given that I'm dealing with uncertainty and given that I cannot study everybody, I would like to study at least a small subset or at least one small subset of the population of interest so that I can understand this subset, and based on what I understand from this subset, I can conclude about your population. To put it into, the context of our example, this is the population of, let's say, Idukki. This is the adults of Idukki, by the way. I'm talking about only adults here, my population of interest. इन एडल्ट्स में लेट्स से 9 लाख लोग थे. मैंने कहा ठीक है, मैं सैम्पल लूँगी. ठीक है, ये जो सबसेट ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन है, बाय द वे, दिस सबसेट ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन, दिस इज प्रिसाइजली व्हाट इज कॉल्ड एज अ सैम्पल, राइट? सो दिस इज व्हाट अ सैम्पल इज. नाउ आई एम सेइंग, अब ये जो 9 लाख एडल्ट्स हैं, इसमें से लेट्स से अभी के लिए मैं कहती हूँ मैं 1 2 3 4 5 6 10 सैम्पल लूँगी. ठीक है, तो इसको इन चार को मैंने यहाँ पे फेंक दिया, मान लो. ठीक है, ये सारे सेम ही है, बाय द वे. दिस इज डोंट गो इनटू ये मैंने यहाँ ड्रॉ क्यों किया, जस्ट फॉर लैक ऑफ स्पेस. सो द पॉइंट इज़ कि अभी मैंने कहा कि मैं 10 सैम्पल लूँगी. अब मैं ये सैम्पल कैसे ले रही हूँ, मैं कितने लोगों को इस सैम्पल में डाल रही हूँ, इस सब के बारे में हम बाद में बात करेंगे. वॉट गोज़ इन टू द सैम्पल, वॉट constitutes the sample, how many people will form a part of the sample, all of those are decisions that I will talk about later. I'm not talking about them right now. We don't touch upon them until unit 3. For now, I'm saying that I will take 10 samples. For each of these 10 samples, I will calculate the blood pressure, or I will measure the blood pressure of all the people in this sample. Let's say each sample contains something like 10 individuals. इन 10 लोगों का BP मैं पढ़ूँगी, इन 10 लोगों का, इन 10 लोगों का, इन 10 लोगों का, इन सब का मैं लेट्स से फॉर नाउ अगेन मैं एक एवरेज निकालती हूँ. एवरेज क्या होता है? ज्योमेट्रिक, आई मीन एन अरिथमेटिक एवरेज रादर इज सो एन एवरेज इज बेसिकली यू सेइंग व्हाट इज द टिपिकल ऑब्जर्वेशन, राइट? टिपिकल का मतलब क्या? आम, जैसे आम आदमी बोलते हैं, तो टिपिकल का भी मतलब वही होता है. यू आर बेसिकली सेइंग दैट आई वुड लाइक टू पिक द मोस्ट टिपिकल ऑफ ऑब्जर्वेशंस out of a particular whatever subset of people, right? So the average is indicative of the typical observation, and the average in mathematics is given by the sum of observations upon the number of observations. Again, this is something that we get into further in this unit, but I'm not touching upon it right now. For now, just consider कि एक typical observation क्या होगी, ये average हमें बता रहा है. ठीक है, तो अब मैंने हर एक का average निकाला. और लेट्स से मेरा एवरेज आता है, इसका एवरेज आता है 70, इसका आता है 68, इसका आता है 65, इसका आता है 66, 72, 80, 82, 83, 84 एंड 87 लेट्स से. नाउ आई नो, अभी के लिए आई एम अज्यूमिंग that I know that the population mean or the population average for now is 78 HgMM. मैं कह रही हूँ एवरेज में पॉपुलेशन सारे लोगों का मिला के अगर हम ये एवरेज लेते तो मेरे को पता है कि एवरेज होता 78. The two things I would like to point out here is that none of these averages in the samples is actually equal to 78. It could have been, but it doesn't have to be, right? So what I'm saying is that the sample average is not necessarily equal to the population average. The sample statistic is not necessarily equal to the population statistic. This is very important. It's very crucial. It's again highlighting the same thing that we started with. It is saying that there is a level of uncertainty that you will always deal with, and that level of uncertainty is not something you can do anything about, which means that you deal with that uncertainty by taking as many samples as possible, studying as many subsets of the population as possible in order to understand what is going on with the population of interest. Okay, so this is where I'm going to stop this video. I hope I've been able to intuit in you at least a few of these concepts. In the next video, I'm going to highlight related concepts to this. I'm going to basically start by focusing on the distinction between descriptive and inferential statistics, and then we're going to touch upon probability versus statistics, and possibly the distinction between enumerative versus analytical studies. But we'll see how the time permits us. So that's it for this video. Thank you.